Okay guys, this lesson is on circles, like we have been learning about, but we're going to fill out these circle notes. These are on the class website. If you will please print them out and glue them into your notebook. So the first one is the diameter. So we've already talked about this, but the diameter is a line segment that goes through the center. And it has endpoints that are on the circle, and in our diagram over here we have the diameter that's highlighted in orange. So the diameter just goes through the center of the circle. The next one is the radius. So the radius is a line segment from the center to the circumference. So remember, the circumference is this part. It's all the way around the circle, as it says in this diagram. So the radius goes from the center, which is here, all the way out to the circumference. And we've talked about that before. You've learned about those before. So the radius and the diameter shouldn't be difficult. A chord, that's one that's new this year. A chord is a line segment with endpoints on the circle. So in our picture, we have a chord right here. So that would be the chord. It has endpoints on the circle right here and right here. So that's a chord, and that can go through the center of the circle, but then that would also be a diameter. So a diameter is a special kind of chord that goes through the center, but a chord doesn't have to go through the center. It can be any part of the circle. The next one is a tangent. So this is a line. Notice that it says a line, not a line segment. So a line goes on in both directions forever. So a tangent is a line that intersects the circle once. And as we see here in our picture, this is our tangent line. It just touches the circle right there. And in our notes from last time, or from a couple class periods ago, this is called the point of tangency. So we have the point of tangency, and then our tangent line. So technically this should have arrows on it because it's a line. The next one is a secant, and if you notice, that's not in our diagram, so we're going to draw that in. But the secant is a line that intersects the circle twice. Goodness, if I can spell circle. Circle twice. So when we draw this, I'm going to draw it right here where there's some space. So just like this. I'm going to put arrows on there, and I'm going to label this as the secant. So that would be a line where it intersects twice, so once is here and once is there. The next one is an arc. We learned about arc length last time. An arc is a portion of the circumference. And then it says right here that the arc is right here. So that's like a portion of the circle or a portion of the circumference. And then a sector is a portion of the area. So the sector here is this piece. That's our sector. And those are the definitions. We've gone over all of those before, but I just wanted to recap what those pieces are. So the central angle is the first type of angle that we're going over in these notes. The central angle is formed by two radii with the vertex at the center of the circle. So this is the vertex of the angle, and then we have the two radii that forms the central angle. And right here it says simply the angle and the arc are equal. So in this case, if this arc is 82 degrees, x would be 82 degrees. So they're just the same. And that one should be pretty easy. So that's when you have the vertex of the angle at the center. The next one is when the vertex is on the circumference, or when it's on the circle, and the rays are two intersecting chords. So remember, these are chords because they go through the circle and they have points on the circle and they go through the middle. So those are chords. So what we do is we either double the angle to get the arc, or if we're given the angle, we double that to get the arc. But in this case, we were given the arc, so we divide the arc in half, or you could also write by 2 to get the angle. So in this case, we have the arc, and we need to divide it by 2 to get the angle, which is x. So the angle there is 41 degrees. And then the next one is a tangent chord angle. So these two we talked about with the angles and arcs homework, but the last one on this page and then the 3 on the back we haven't talked about before. But a tangent chord angle is just that. It's using a tangent and a chord in the circle to form an angle. So in this case, we have BC. This is our tangent line, and I'm just extending that to show that that's a line. And then AB is our chord. So the angle here, this is in red. So that's x, and it has the same rules as an inscribed angle. So we just double the angle to get the arc. But in this case, we don't have the angle. We're trying to find the angle. So we would divide the arc by 2 to get the angle. So if we did that, we would get x equals 148 divided by 2, which gives us 74 degrees for that missing angle. Okay, the next one is an interior angle. So your homework tonight is on interior and exterior angles. Those are the next two in our notes. So you have an interior angle. That means that the angle is on the inside of the circle. So we have two chords here. We have a chord AB, and then we have a chord CD, and it says 4 angles are formed here. So this would be like 1, 2, 3, 4. And it says at the point of intersection, 2 sets of congruent vertical angles are formed in the corners of the X that appears. So because of what we learned last chapter, or in module 5, with vertical angles, we know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because they're vertical angles, and then angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. So if we find one of those angles, we would know another one, and then we could either say they're supplementary or we could figure it out a different way. So the way that we find this X, so it has us finding X here, and that would be the interior angle because the arcs are here. If we were given the other 2 arcs, if we were given like this arc and this arc, we would be finding this angle, but that's not what we're finding because that's not what we were given. So what we do is we just add the two arcs together and divide by 2. So that's what we're going to put. Simply add the arcs and divide by 2. So if we do that, we would have our angle is going to be equal to 32 plus 54 divided by 2. So that gives us 86 divided by 2. So our angle is 43. And that's how we find interior angles. That's when the angle's inside. And that one should be pretty simple. So one of the pages of homework front and back is about interior angles. The next one is about exterior angles. So the only way you can get interior angles is if we have two chords that are intersecting, because chords are always completely inside of the circle. With exterior angles, we need pieces that can be outside of the circle. So that would be tangents, secants, or a combination of the two. So if we have two tangents, that means that we have this line here that is extending like this. Oh, so AB is extending like this. And then we have BC that is also extending past just C because it's a tangent line. So these intersect here and they're forming the angle right there. So this is our exterior angle. This is what we're trying to find. This is X. So what we do when we have an exterior angle is we find the difference. So if it's inside, we add them together. If the angle is formed outside, then we subtract. And what we subtract is the major minus the minor. And that's just what it sounds like. And then we divide that by 2. So major, this is the bigger angle, or the bigger arc, sorry, the bigger arc. And then this would be the smaller arc. You know, major and minor, it makes sense. So in our first example, we have our major arc here, that's 240, minus the minor arc, which is 120. When you subtract those, you get 120. We divide that by 2, so 60 is our missing angle, or the exterior angle. So that's when we have two tangents. So they're just intersecting at A and at C. Then another combination we could have is two secants. So remember, secants go through the circle. So we have AC that goes through the circle and it intersects at B. So we have an intersection point at C and at B. And then we also have an intersection point at D and E. So we do the same thing. We do the major, which in this case is 100 because that's bigger, minus the minor. So that's 100 minus 30. That gives us 70. We divide that by 2, so 35 is our answer for this exterior angle up here. So this goes there. This is 35 degrees. And then our last one is if we have a tangent and a secant. So AB, this is our tangent because it just intersects the circle once. And then AD is our secant. So if we had a combination of the two, then it would still work. So our major here, the bigger one, is 164. Our minor is 70. And if we do 164 minus 70, that gives us 94. We divide that in 2, or we divide it by 2, and that gives us that this angle right here is 47 degrees. And that's how you do exterior angles. So you can have any combination of these, but when it forms an angle outside of the circle, it's an exterior angle. If it forms an angle inside of the circle, it's an interior angle, and that's when you have pieces that are intersecting, like chords, secants, and tangents. The last one is a special case when you have a tangent and a radius. So remember, OS here would be the radius, and it's going from O to S, and that's why it's a radius, because O is the center, S is on the circle. And then we have AB, this is our tangent, and S is the point of tangency. So if we have a radius, like we do here, OS, and it's intersecting with the tangent at the point of tangency, then it is perpendicular. So that's why we have a 90-degree angle here, because those are perpendicular to each other. So this one, it says if a line is tangent to a circle, it is perpendicular to the radius drawn to the point of tangency. So simply the tangent and the radius are perpendicular. And you won't have any questions like this on your homework. It's just on interior angles and exterior angles, but you will need to know this for your test review. So that is it for these notes. So now you should look up the homework. You can print it out, or you can just write the answers on a separate piece of paper, but it's for you to practice, and then you can take the quiz, which has 10 questions. 5 of them are interior angles, 5 of them are exterior, and you have 1 attempt. So make sure that you practice and you know what you're doing, and then you can take the quiz. And that's what we'll do for our lesson today. Thanks, guys.